Sup guys, Zanderson 977 here today to do JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders episode 20 review. And this episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was a very hilarious, right? Um, it was very hilarious. It was very nerve-wracking. There were some tense moments, right? And there was a lot of deep, I think, character progression in terms of Kakyoin and his character, the whole interaction between him and his other teammates, and about also of the fact about how they all doubted him, but he ended up being right in the end, and we get to see him being kind of his retribution of some sort in the later parts of this episode. But I just start off from the beginning. Now, in this week's episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, right, from the onset, we see that we picked up where we left off. The other guys are beginning to think that Kakyoin has some screws loose, that this journey has taken its toll on him, and that he's delusional or is thinking things, right? Kakyoin was, Polnareff was saying that to Jotaro before. And then after that point, when Kakyoin was there, being puzzled, sitting by the rock, having his head in his hand, puzzling about what is really going on. He's even doubting himself at the same time, wondering if he was probably wondering himself if he was going crazy, or if he had a couple screws loose. He was doubting himself. And then, right, out of the blue, we see the scorpion enter the baby's carriage, or where the baby was staying, right? This baby, it was in the scorpion, like holy crap, it's a scorpion, because even though he looks like a baby, he's a stand user, and he full well knows what a scorpion is. The scorpion all of a sudden came towards the baby to attack the baby, and the baby just used a hairpin, right, in the most quickest professional assassin like way, just killed the scorpion just like that and impaled it. And the funny thing was that Kakyoin, he saw everything. When Kakyoin saw this, and we see Kakyoin's face, right, Kakyoin was like, holy shit, and the baby was like, holy shit, he saw it. I'm like, oh man, that to me was very, very funny, right? That was a very funny part of the episode, in my opinion, right? The mere fact that the baby hoped that nobody saw him, but then looking to the side, he realized that Kakyoin, out of all of them, Kakyoin saw this shit. Kakyoin had his eyes on him, and he was watching him the whole time. So when he came there to impale a scorpion, Kakyoin caught everything. Kakyoin caught him red-handed. So he went over there and began telling the others about this immediately. And we see the baby in the corner cowering, even a look on the baby's face, that gave him away. He looked like a guilty convict, hiding one face between the sheets and, looking up, with this guilty look on his face. Oh man, that was funny in my opinion. That was a funny scene in this episode. But the others, they didn't believe him. They obviously believe that he's going nuts. He's losing his screws. When they went over to the baby carriage to check out what went on, nothing was there to be found, right? And it's later shown that the baby actually swallowed the scorpion. He had the scorpion in his mouth. So when Jotaro's father was trying to feed him with the baby food, he didn't want to eat it because the scorpion was in his mouth. He was trying to conceal the scorpion in his own mouth. So man, that was a very, very funny scene right there. And then the scene switches over, like when this is the important point. When Jotaro's grandfather was trying to feed the baby, right, out of the blue, the baby was trying to resist as much as he could to not eat the food, even though it tasted good, and the baby itself was hungry, because the baby itself said that it was hungry. It was trying to resist as much as it could to not eat the food, right? And in trying to resist that, what actually saved the baby was Kakyoin himself. He jumped in there, threw away the spoon, and was demanding them that, look at my arm, right? Where the baby stand is on my arm. And this means that the baby is a stand. Don't you guys realize this? Don't you guys see what I'm trying to tell you? But it had the actual opposite effect. What actually happened from that was that the guys then began to have real proof, have real, knowledge to say that, whoa, Kakyoin, he's off in the deep end, right? He's even carving words and names and carving up illusional things into his hand. They thought that he was off in the deep end, right? And even Jotaro's grandfather was saying, "Oh my God!" The way how he said it in this unique Japanese way, it was crazy, man. That was funny. So they all thought that that was the last straw. Kakyoin, he's really out there, right? He's really lost his marbles. He's carving up names into his hand with his own knife, and he's blooding up himself. They thought that he was just about crazy, and then Kakyoin realized that, okay, well, I know that I'm right, so I'm going to have to use force. He let out Hierophant Green. He used his stand to try to attack, but out of the blue, Polnareff came behind him and knocked him out right there, which actually turns out to be towards their advantage, as we see later on in this episode. So he got knocked out with his stand out, trying to attack them, and then they realized that, okay, Kakyoin really has lost his marbles, as Jotaro's grandfather would say, "Oh my God!" So they said that they'll wait behind in the morning to see what they should do with him, and after that point they'll go to sleep. Upon going to sleep, they'll wake up in this dream world, the same dream world that we saw them in last episode. But because Polnareff was in the dream world from before, and he had his own experiences with the stand user and the stand Death 13, he realizes, he remembers everything, and he remembers that Kakyoin was actually telling the truth, that they were doubting their own friend for really over this baby. And he came to his senses, and he began to tell the others that, yes, what Kakyoin is saying is true. We're in a dream world. This is really serious. And out of the blue, Polnareff here just began to grow up large, and then began to become attached to this pose. Jotaro's grandfather hand began to freak out, and electricity sparks going everywhere. Then it began to grow large, and it just dropped on the ground. And then Jotaro's chain, that chain style that he has on his clothes, it began to go up, and then automatically begin wrapping around his neck, trying to strangle him. So everything is going crazy in the dream world. And then the baby, we see the scene of it finally getting to eat the baby food. And before he went into the world itself with his own stand user, he is eating the food and he's there enjoying it. He's taking his time, because he basically believes that he has won. Kakyoin is out, all of them are out sleeping, so there's no way that he could lose. And then after that point you see the stand Death 13 come up to them as expected, and automatically Jotaro, as the same mistake that Kakyoin made before along with Polnareff, thought that he should just bring out his stand user. So he's brought out the stand, it's still called stand Star Platinum, but when he brought it out, it was actually revealed that it's actually like a copy, it's not the real thing. So it came out and hit Jotaro one side, and then began making his funny faces, like a clown doing funny stuff. And then the Death 13 itself says that he, it's a part of him, it's one of his toys, or it's basically that it's a clone, it's not the real thing, that they can't bring out their stands into the dream world, because stands are made up of spiritual energy. One way that they could fight him, he basically tells them this, because he believes that he won. The only way that they can fight him is if they, before going to sleep, brought out their stands before that time, so that they will be brought back into the dream world in the same way that they came in there with their clothes and their other stuff like that. So he basically told him that the only way that they could have their stands face his stand was to bring out their stand before going to sleep, to bring them into the dream world. And then out of the blue we see Hierophant Green, right? This is a pretty good play by Kakyoin. He waits, he watches, right? He even got the enemy to reveal its own weakness, or reveal tactics to use against it, and then use it against it. So Hierophant Green showed up. Death 13 is there thinking that, oh, this is just one of his puppets, but then it realizes that it's a real deal, and he's beginning to get strangled. And then out of the blue, he begins to try all of this stuff to shake it off, but it didn't work. One thing leads to the next. um Hierophant Green went inside of Death 13's body, began to control the body, and made a threat towards the Death 13. Understand that if it doesn't want its own head to be chopped off, it better heal up the wound that Kakyoin itself placed on its hand. Where because they're in the dream world, any injuries or anything that they get in the dream world is reflected in the real world. And so on that note, vice versa, if they want to heal themselves from an injury, they could do it in a dream world, which is a pretty good ability in my opinion, right? That's a good thing to have at all times, and that's in some ways hacks as well. You know, that's a very impressive ability. So he healed up Kakyoin's hand, and in the morning, Kakyoin is the first one to awake. He wakes all of them up, saying, you know, good morning. You know, all of them feeling as usual when someone wakes up from that dream world that they had a bad nightmare, but they can't remember what it is. And then Polnareff freaking out at at Kakyoin, like, why is he walking up and down around the place? Aren't you delusional? You know, there was even the time when you carved up letters on your arm, and then when he took a look, you know, the arm was completely healed. So he was like, whoa, you know, we must have been dreaming about that as well, or we must have been delusional about that as well. And then we see Kakyoin's own interaction with the baby, right? Kakyoin basically tells the baby that, look here, I know that you're a baby, and because you're a baby, I won't necessarily do harm to you. But and you know, and he pulled out the baby diapers to change it because the baby took a shit in the diaper, right? And he basically told the baby that he better leave them alone because of the fact that he remembers everything that happens. Kakyoin is the only one that remembers everything from that dream because he went into the dream with his own son, apart from the others. So he full well knows from now on that, you know, to counteract this guy, all he needs to do is bring out his stand before he falls asleep, and he's perfectly fine. And he even made a threat to the baby by using the baby's own poop, like the baby's own shit, mixing that with the baby food, dropping it in there and mixing it around. And then the baby was like, holy crap, I'm not going to eat that. And the messed up thing about this is Jotaro's grandfather, right, comes over trying to feed the baby its own shit, right? Because shit is in the baby food. The baby doesn't want it. And then Polnareff come in there trying to, you know, tickle the baby and give the baby so that the baby will open his mouth. And upon the moment of the baby opening its mouth, boom, the spoon goes into its mouth. And you know, that's some horrific shit right there, right? I have to say that's pretty gruesome. That's pretty crazy right there, right? The baby got what was coming to him. Justice was in fact served. And another point of this episode that I want to point out is towards the end of this episode, instead of it's revealed that they traveled the entire Saudi Arabia peninsula and they're on the way towards Egypt. But Jotaro's grandfather, before going directly towards Egypt, he's making a beeline to this island, right? He's saying that there's someone to meet on this island, someone important for him to meet this late in the story. So you know, that's very suspicious in a way. You know, you're wondering who could this be, but I'm sure that seeing the flashes of next episode, we got hints about who this really could be, and you know, it's very surprising. But I don't want to put spoilers out there. I don't want to spoil anybody's fun, so all we need to do is wait until the next episode to see what happens. But the hints were actually in this week's episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Towards the ending part, where they show sneak peeks of next week's episode, the hints are there. So I just leave that as that. So overall, I thought that this was an amazing chapter of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Definitely one of my favorite thus far. It's crazy in a lot of ways, nerve-wracking, funny, all that. It was an amazing episode. So that's it. That's my review. Remember to rate, comment, subscribe. Sayonara.